Hello and welcome to Always Bored, Never Boring. Back in the days when in-browser flash games were all the rage, I wasted an ungodly amount of time playing zombie survival games. I loved the ones where you had a base that you would gradually upgrade and expand while hordes of the undead closed in on you. So when Richard Davis from UK-based company Dark Frontier Games contacted me to ask if I would like to receive a review copy of Outbreak, a cooperative zombie survival game for 1 to 8 players, I was certainly intrigued. I always do a little research before featuring any game on the channel to see if I think it's going to be a good fit, and from a cursory glance, Outbreak appeared to be a board game that recreated some of the feel of those old Flash games I enjoyed so much. After all, the main idea is to protect and expand a settlement that is surrounded by a ravening horde of the ambulating unalived at the end of the world. Just look at this lovely cover art. It's so vibrant and there is so much going on. If you see this and don't immediately want to open the box and start playing, you might want to check your pulse. You may already be one of the walking dead. However, Outbreak isn't the game I thought it was. It's not at all what I expected. It's not about building a civilization, it's merely about defending the one you already have. And it's definitely not like the Flash games I once played. It is, however, a game I've played before. Sort of. Now, please indulge me for a moment because I want to very quickly talk about a different game, but there is a reason for doing so. Way back in 2008, Antoine Bowser published Ghost Stories, a delightful co-op game in which players take on the role of monks defending a small village from a relentless onslaught of evil spirits from Chinese mythology. Each monk has a special ability, and they move around a 3x3 grid of village locations where they can interact with the locals to gain special bonuses. Each turn, new ghosts arrive at the edge of the village. Some ghosts trigger a special ability when they arrive, some have an ongoing ability, and some have an ability that triggers when they are defeated. Some of the worst are the haunters. They gradually slink closer to the village and will eventually haunt the closest village location, making it inaccessible until the monks can restore it. Monks fight the ghosts by rolling custom dice, looking to match the quantity and type of coloured symbols on the ghost cards. They can supplement their roll by discarding tokens they have collected that have the different colours on them. Ghost Stories is a great game. I really enjoy it and I still have it in my collection. But it is mercilessly difficult. The game has a sort of yin and yang game loop. Before you get to do something good, first you have to endure something bad by revealing a new ghost card. And often it feels like a relentless slog where you constantly react to threats and never get a chance to be proactive. There is never any breathing room and you are always clinging on for dear life, doing what you can rather than what you want. Now, I mention Ghost Stories because all of those game mechanisms and that feeling of crushing relentless suffering are present here in Outbreak. Survivors in Outbreak all have a special ability, and they move around the locations of their hex-based city, interacting with the locals to gain special bonuses to help them fight off the surrounding zombies. Zombies spawn every turn, and some have an ability that triggers when they appear, some have an ongoing ability, and some have an ability that triggers when they are defeated. They all operate like the haunters in Ghost Stories, gradually shuffling forward until they overrun the nearest settlement location, making those areas inaccessible until the zombies are cleared out. Heroes fight the zombies by rolling custom dice, looking for the quantity and type of resources on the zombie tiles, and they can supplement their rolls with resource tokens. I am absolutely certain Richard Davis is a fan of Ghost Stories, and has looked at that design and thought, I like that, but I can see room for improvement. These similarities are just too glaring to be coincidence, and while those similarities are undeniable, the differences are just as undeniable. And it's those differences that are so important, because those differences, as far as I'm concerned, make Outbreak the better game of the two. Because what Outbreak does, which Ghost Stories fails to do, is give you a real opportunity to develop your defences. Each hero has the chance to gain one-use abilities or to train to gain permanent new powers. Locations have a vast selection of bonuses you can use. You can expand your settlement, gaining new abilities and making it harder for the zombies to overrun. And you can access an extensive list of developments from gun emplacements and garrisons to watchtowers and fortresses. Perhaps most importantly, in Outbreak, heroes can actively engage zombies in order to defeat them, but they can also defend when the zombies attack. This gives you the breathing room to use your action for something other than attacking, as you will still get a chance to defend if the zombies break in. That makes it so much easier to gather resources and better prepare for later threats. Ultimately, in Outbreak, players have a chance to be proactive, to build, plan and strategize. Certainly there will be times of panic where you simply do what you can when you can to fend off the zombies, but more often than not you will have multiple valid options available to you on your turn. And the game gives you just that little bit of wiggle room so that while you always feel under pressure, you don't feel so consistently overwhelmed. All of that is not to say the game is easy, it is still incredibly hard. It can still be teeth-gnashingly frustrating, and I do feel the game's design still piles on too much misery, penalising you for succeeding in your tasks almost as often as it penalises you for failing. But at least here the difficulty seems a bit more manageable, and you always have lots of options for handling problems. Okay, I don't want to spend this whole review comparing Outbreak to Ghost Stories, so let's rewind a bit and take a closer look at how to play Outbreak. The first thing to do is pick your survivor characters. The game is for 1 to 8 players controlling from 4 to 8 survivors, so it may be necessary for some players to control multiple characters. Fortunately, that's not too difficult. There are 10 survivors to pick from, so there's plenty of variety, and I like to randomly select, so I won't be tempted to always go for my favourite, the soldier. Each survivor has 3 stats: movement, life points and fortune, which is the maximum number of fortune cards they can ever hold. Note the fortune card slot at the bottom of the character sheet, which is illustrated to reinforce your maximum hand size. You have to love that kind of intuitive graphic design, it really makes a difference. Additionally, each survivor has a favoured resource and a number of carrying slots. Whenever they pick up a token, it has to be stored in an empty slot. Additionally, when they take wounds, hex-shaped wound tokens are placed over those slots, meaning they can carry less. And check out this survivor list. They can only carry 3 items, but they can take 4 wounds, so that first wound doesn't impact on their carry limit. I really do love the design of these character sheets, they are so well thought out. Before play, each survivor also gains 2 of their favoured resources and a number of fortune cards equal to their fortune stat. Next, it's time to set up the scenario. The game is played on a hex board with a group of settlement hex tiles in the centre representing the city and surrounding zombie hex tiles representing the enemy hordes. Additional zombies will be in a zombie stack with 1 or more boss monsters shuffled in, usually near the bottom. You can randomly generate the city based on the number of survivors and randomly generate the horde based on your selected difficulty. Alternatively, you can use one of these survivor diary scenarios, which has been my preferred option as it's a bit less random and therefore feels more balanced. Your city will have a main base which you should protect. This is where the survivors start, along with some helpless citizens. You also need to place tokens on the 0 space of the experience tracker and on the 0 space of the day tracker. The rules say that by using 2 tokens the day tracker can record from day 1 through day 99. But I haven't figured out how to record past day 39. Regardless, at this point we are ready to play and the goal is simple. Destroy all of the zombies including the boss before all of the survivors are killed, the helpless citizens are killed, or the boss makes it to the main base. The game consists of rounds divided into a number of phases which are in turn divided into a number of steps. First is the opening phase. This starts with the Doom step. During the course of the game, events will instruct players to add cards to the Doom tracker. These are placed in the top row face down. In the Doom step, all of those cards are moved to the bottom active row where they are flipped face up and resolved. Doom cards are always bad, the clue is in the name. They may force you to immediately discard resources, or they may have ongoing effects that will impact your actions for the rest of this round. And I have to say, I think the Doom tracker is a bit too much a lot of the time. The game already gives you a lot to deal with, and the Doom tracker is just a monstrous additional burden. In addition to the consequences of the Doom cards themselves, if you ever need to place a card and there's no space, you lose 3 experience points. As Doom cards are drawn for a wide variety of reasons, many of them beyond your control, this can start to feel a bit unfair. These hardships are supposedly offset by the Doom dice. If at any point either row of the Doom tracker is full, you can choose to roll the Doom dice in place of any 1 resource dice you would normally get to roll. We will talk more about resource dice in a moment, but the Doom dice has 4 wild symbols on it, so there is a significantly improved chance of scoring a success. But Even good things are bad in this game, and one face of the Doom dice has the Doom symbol on it. Roll this and you have to add another Doom card to the Doom tracker. As the tracker will normally be full when you roll the dice, this invariably means you take an experience point hit, compounding the issues you were already facing. And I do dislike that design choice. If you are already under the cosh and you are granted a boon to help you level the playing field, that boon shouldn't end up hurting you even more. That's when things start to feel relentless and when players can start to feel helpless. Next, you move the day tracker. If the tracker reaches a little settler icon, you place a settler on the main base. If the tracker reaches a Doom icon, you place a Doom card on the top row of the Doom tracker. And once you hit day 10, you have to start revealing additional zombie hordes each day. Speaking of which, after advancing the day track, you reveal zombie hordes. You reveal 1 horde per survivor, plus up to 3 additional hordes depending on how far along your day tracker is. You can select hordes from anywhere on the board, and each horde gets one of these groovy custom zombie meeples. And this I do like, for 2 reasons. Firstly, you reveal all the new threats for this turn before any survivors activate. That means the whole team knows the threat in advance and they can cooperate efficiently to deal with it in the best way possible. Secondly, you get to choose which hordes to reveal, so you can pick the ones that are the most beneficial to your immediate situation. The downside to this is that many zombies have effects that trigger when they are revealed, or which are active effects that remain in play until the zombies are destroyed. In an 8-player game, you could be hit with as many as 11 effects all at once, which is a lot of mess to deal with. Incidentally, this will be your first contact with icons. Many icons. Just so many icons. There are 26 icons just to define different zombie traits. This gives the game lots of variation and you are constantly being presented with new challenges, but it is going to take a while to internalize all of those icons, and you can expect to spend a lot of your first few games referencing the icon key. And that is before we even get to the settlement abilities, which will blow your mind. Also, with so many different kinds of threats, there are more potential combinations, some of which really are a perfect storm that will wreck your day. After revealing hordes, you can move your helpless citizens if you want to. It's a good idea to keep them as far away from zombies as possible, as you lose if they are killed. You can also move a settler if you have one. Should a settler ever reach an empty hex, they are removed from play and replaced with a settlement tile of your choice. Hooray! Your city is now bigger, harder to beat, and you have new abilities at your disposal. Finally, you replenish any empty spaces around the edge of the city with newly drawn face-down horde tiles. If you have no hordes left in the draw pile, you skip this step. With all of the bookkeeping done, it's time for survivors to act, and they have an incredible range of options. Once per turn they can move, develop defences, and trade with other survivors. Additionally, they can make one attack against zombies, or interact with one settlement, or search. Moving and trading are straightforward enough, but developing offers you no less than 10 ways to improve your defences by spending experience points that the players have earned through killing zombies. You can use the experience to build garrisons, bulwarks, watchtowers, fortresses, and gun turrets, which all provide different sorts of defensive bonuses when the zombies close in. But you can also revive incapacitated survivors, restore settlements where there have been power cuts or outbreaks of disease, and you can even level up your survivors by purchasing up to 2 permanent skills for each of them. One of the things I really like about the skill system is there are 3 types of skill: strength, intelligence, and dexterity, and each settlement only offers one specific skill type, so getting the right kind of skill may involve moving out of position. When you level up in this way, you draw 3 skills from the skill deck that match the corresponding type, and you select only one to keep. At first, the number of options may seem overwhelming, especially as there are yet more icons to learn, but once it clicks, this development phase really opens up the space for interesting decision making. This is where the game really comes to life, but in a good way, not in a zombie that wants to eat your brains way. And you feel like you really do have important, varied, and interesting choices to make. Do you want to spend your hard-earned experience points on temporary fortifications or a more permanent fortress? Do you want to build a powerful item that your hero can use, or would you rather level up and gain an ability? And then you get to the most important decision. Will you fight this turn, or instead will you interact with your current settlement location? Most locations have 2 icons. This will either represent a choice of 2 actions you can take at that location, or 1 action and a passive effect, and yes, you better believe there are more icons. There are 24 settlements in the base game, most of which have 2 icons, and to learn those icons you will have to refer to a reference sheet that does not present the locations in alphabetical order. This makes familiarising yourself with actions far more laborious than it needs to be, and I think that's something that could be addressed in a reprint. But all those icons mean the choices here are diverse and exciting. While many locations allow you to gain a resource, you will also get to heal wounds, build traps, restore damaged settlements, move other survivors, or even fire up a tank to take the battle to the zombies. If you don't like any of the options you have, you can instead search the location, which means drawing a fortune card. These cards can be spent at any time for a huge range of one-time bonuses. And I think at this point, you get the point. There are decisions layered on decisions. You have so many choices on any given turn. But of course, these zombies are always clawing at the doors, and often you will want to fight. This is a simple process of rolling 3 resource dice and trying to match the symbols on the zombie tile you are attacking. The skull symbol on the dice is a wild and can be used as any other symbol. And if you swap out a regular dice for the doom dice, you have an increased chance of rolling that wild symbol. Additionally, you can add resource tokens to the roll if necessary, and all survivors at the location pool their resources, making it easier to access the necessary tokens to win. Taking down the biggest threat will require survivors to cooperate well, gathering lots of resources and then meeting up to throw everything they have at their enemies. If you kill the horde, you gain experience points equal to the horde's level. Fail and you fail. You aren't penalised, but the fact the zombies are still in action is penalty enough, because once all survivors have activated, it's time for the zombie phase. First, all zombies move. If they are on the first arrow of their tile, they move to the second arrow, and that is it for now. If they are on the second arrow already, they attack an adjacent settlement. A survivor at the settlement gets to make a defense roll, which is exactly the same as an attack roll, but which may benefit from bonuses relating to fortresses, traps, or other defensive measures in the settlement. A successful defense roll kills the horde, but a failure results in a wound on the defender as they are pushed into an adjacent region. The horde will then advance into the settlement, preventing that area from being used until they are destroyed or they move again. And to add insult to injury, you have to add a doom card to the doom track. Furthermore, if your helpless citizens were there, they are devoured and it's instantly game over. After all of the zombies have moved, any bosses will move in the same way, and if a boss reaches the main base, that also means game over. Then you discard any active doom cards from the doom track and a new turn starts with the doom phase. So the turn sequence is fairly straightforward. The difficulty comes from having so many decisions to make, which is no bad thing, and the number of icons you will have to learn, which is a bad thing. But once you have internalized all of the options, you can sink into the gameplay. And that gameplay you will either love or hate. Make no mistakes, this game is hard, and sometimes it feels unfair. It always feels relentless, and that does make sense for the theme, but good grief. Zombies often have some kind of ability that triggers when you reveal them, another that remains active while they are on the board, and yet another that triggers when you destroy them. And while some of those abilities will help the survivors, often they won't. Pulling off a big attack and killing a zombie horde only for the death of that horde to force you to reveal another horde, draw a doom card, or make every survivor discard a resource feels bad. Being punished for success can lead to a sense of resentment. And while I understand the reason for such rules, I understand the need for the game to make you feel like you are always on the edge of failure, personally, I like to enjoy the little victories. I like to have that one brief moment of joy before things get bad again. But if you are on board with that design decision, if you go into this game knowing the intention is to suffer, is to feel what it would feel like to face a zombie horde, then the game just works. At the start of this review, I pointed out that Outbreak shares many similarities with Ghost Stories, but also has many differences. and while I said I didn't want to focus on comparing the two games, I am sure some people will be wondering if they need Outbreak if they already have Ghost Stories, or if both games have a place on their shelf. So to wrap up this review, I will draw a final comparison. Ghost Stories is cleaner. It's leaner, quicker, with fewer moving parts to cause confusion or clag up the smooth running of the yin and yang turns. However, it only gives you a small space to maneuver within to develop a winning strategy. It is a nimble spirit darting across your gaming table, as difficult to beat as a dark thought. Outbreak, in contrast, is a large, lumbering monster. There are dozens and dozens of icons, countless combinations of special abilities, skills and fortunes, and many ways in which to face the threat of the apocalypse. It feels more generous and expansive, and it gives players a larger sandpit to play in with many more tools to experiment with. It allows for more strategizing and more proactive choices, but at the cost of increased downtime, an increased amount of luck, analysis paralysis, and occasionally some confusion over how or when to resolve special rules. Importantly, despite offering many more routes to victory, it's still hard as hell, and it still demands of you what any good zombie game should: your brains. Thank you so much to Dark Frontier Games for sending this copy of Outbreak for review, and thank you for watching. If you like this video, please consider pressing the like button. If you really like this video, please consider subscribing if you don't already do so, and hopefully I will see you all again very soon. Bye bye everyone, bye bye.